Hello everyone, and welcome to another World of Warcraft video. For those of you who aren't aware, this weekend BlizzCon is taking place, and some big news came out last night about the next expansion in World of Warcraft. It will be called the Warlords of Draenor, and it goes back in time a little bit and goes over some old characters who are pretty important in terms of the overall story in World of Warcraft, particularly from the Horde perspective. However, timeline's going to be a little bit different. We're going to see these characters in a different light than we may know them from the books. If you're not familiar with the books, then you might be interested in this expansion because it will give you a chance to learn some pretty important characters, and you'll get to learn why things are named the way they are, why people are the way they are in World of Warcraft, and in particular Thrall and Garrosh are going to be pretty important in we're going to find out how they became the people they are. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the Alliance characters so much. I'm going to be talking more about the Horde as being a Horde player and being more interested in the Horde storyline. I know more about these, so if you are interested in the Alliance characters, then you're probably watching the wrong video. Also, this video won't go over any of the actual features in Warlords of Draenor. This is just about the storyline, about who the Warlords of Draenor are, what the setting of the new expansion is, and where it might go, what its relevance to the current expansion is, and you know, how it might end up. So I'm going to go over who these Warlords of Draenor are and things like that. So yeah, I'll do another video about the features of Warlords of Draenor that I'm excited about, but I want to wait until BlizzCon is over before I actually do that, just in case any other little nitbits and tiny little bits of information come out that I can put in a video. So yeah, to start off with, how this expansion ends is basically Garrosh is about to go on trial in Pandaria, but escapes before a verdict is reached, and somehow he manages to go back in time to Draenor before it came corrupted and turned into Outland. Now obviously we all know Outland, that's the level 60s or 70s old, and you know, Shadowmoon Valley and Nagrand. Well, Garrosh goes back to those places before they became corrupted by demonic forces and shattered into what we know it as. So it was a much more pure but savage world, where the orcs and the ogres and the Draenei were sort of not really at the height of their power, but certainly in case of the ogres and the orcs, they were. So yeah, his aim is to basically go back to when the orcs were at their most powerful. And change the timeline slightly so the orcs become purified. His intent is to stop the orcs drinking Manorov's blood, purifying the Horde. He doesn't drink Manorov's. If Grom, Hellscream, and the other orcs don't drink Manorov's blood, they don't become serving the demon forces, and therefore retain their individuality, their individual power, and control over their own future. And they don't lose the 2 consecutive wars that follow. This expansion won't focus on the time travel aspects though. It's going to be mostly about the past and referring to these events rather than swapping backwards and forwards through time, meeting characters, meeting each other and stuff like that. It's like there aren't going to be 2 Thralls, obviously. There aren't going to be, you know, multiple people of the same person meeting each other. It's not going to be focused on the mechanics of time travel so much as it's a catalyst for this story. So how he manages to travel back in time, I don't know. He has some friends that helps him. I think this might be Raytheon, because he wasn't very happy with what the Alliance did at the end of Siege of Orgrimmar, and I think that Garrosh's idea might be a possible avenue for him to achieve his overall goal, but we know of doesn't have the power of time travel, so it could be the Bronze Dragonflight. Who knows? We'll find out. But yeah, at this point in the Warlords of Draenor, in this timeline, Grom Hellscream has managed to unite the tribes, the clans of the orcs in Draenor, and become the Iron Horde. The Iron Horde looks pretty technologically powerful, considering it's set before the current time in World of Warcraft. So I think perhaps Garrosh took some of Black Fuse's technology in the past and helped build up this Iron Horde. Though just how much influence he has on this Iron Horde we don't know. We haven't seen him with his father in the trailer, so we don't know if they've actually met, or whether perhaps Garrosh is doing this from the sidelines, being a bit secretive. The Horde and the Alliance are trying to stop the Iron Horde spilling through the Dark Portal into Azeroth, and you're going to basically work with the various clans of Draenor to try and, perhaps bring them out of the Iron Horde, and in particular the Frostwolf clan are kind of undecided, or they refused originally, but whether that stays remains to be seen. So we're going to be working with all these different clans and trying to stop them from bringing the Iron Horde into Azeroth. But who are these warlords? Who are these leaders of all these clans, and what are their relevance to the timeline that we know? I'm going to go through them all, and you'll probably recognise a few of them. If you're not too big into the storyline, you'll probably recognise some of the places or events from levelling up. So first off is Kargath Bladefist. He's the leader of the Shattered Hand clan. He cut off his hands to liberate his clan from slavery to the ogres, and many other orcs in his clan cut off their hands and replaced them with blades to honour him. He ended up becoming a Fel Orc and creating the Fel Horde, and you actually fight him in the Shattered Halls dungeon in Burning Crusade, at which point he's killable. Whether he goes off to that route in this expansion remains to be seen. Next up is Blackhand, leader of the Black Rock clan. In our timeline, he became the first war chief of the Horde and fought the Alliance in the First War. He was later killed by Orgrim Doomhammer, who took his place as the second war chief of the Horde. He had two sons named Maim and Rend Blackhand, who formed a Dark Horde, and the latter could be fought in a dungeon, Upper Blackrock Spire. Next is Kilrog Deadeye, leader of the Bleeding Hollow clan. He led an attack on Stormwind Keep with Cho'Gall and the Twilight's Hammer during the First War. Obviously Cho'Gall you'll remember from Cataclysm. He was killed in our timeline by the Alliance commander Darnath Trollbane. Next up is Ner'zhul. He's probably one of the most famous people on this list. He was an Elder Shaman and leader of the Shadowmoon clan. He was manipulated by the Demon Lord Kil'jaeden into believing the peaceful Draenei they lived beside were actually planning to wipe out the Orcs. So Ner'zhul gathered the Orc clans to make the first move. When Ner'zhul realised he'd been deceived, he was prepared to defy his demon master. However, his apprentice Gul'dan betrayed him, and Ner'zhul was stripped of his power. Ner'zhul was forced to watch the Orcs become corrupt and barbaric, but he managed to warn the Frostwolf clan of the dangers of drinking Mannoroth's blood, and they refused to drink it, saving themselves from corruption thanks to his warning. Following the events of the Second War, a wounded Ner'zhul was in Draenor, while the remaining Orc clans fought amongst each other. The first Death Knight, Terran Gorefiend, persuaded Ner'zhul to reunite the Horde and open the portals to find other worlds to conquer. Ner'zhul eventually agreed and collected 4 magical items to create the portal, one of which was the skull of his former apprentice and betrayer, Gul'dan. The skull of Gul'dan corrupted Ner'zhul, and he became obsessed with power beyond the welfare of the Horde. When he opened the portal and stepped through, without the Orcish Horde, the magic tore apart Draenor, and it became the Outland that we know today. On the other side, Ner'zhul was met by Kil'jaeden, who tore apart his body but kept his soul intact. He entered servitude to the demonic lord again, and his soul was bound to the frozen throne, making him the original Lich King. Eventually, of course, a young paladin named Arthas would fuse his soul with his. It is assumed that his soul died with Arthas at the end of the Wrath of the Lich King. Next up is Gul'dan, an equally important character. Gul'dan of this timeline leads the Stormreaver clan, Fel Orcs twisted by demonic corruption. He seeks to remove Ner'zhul from his place in the Iron Horde and tempts them into demonic servitude. In our timeline, Gul'dan ended up splitting off from the Horde and seeking power by his own means. He sought out the tomb of Sargeras, but he was in turn betrayed by the demons he served, who tore him apart. At least we think they're demons. His residual power remained in his skull, which was used by both Illidan Stormrage and Ner'zhul later on. Next up is Grom Hellscream, who's going to be one of the most important characters in this expansion. Grommash Hellscream was the leader of the Horde. He sort of led, at this point in Warlords of Draenor, he's sort of leading the Iron Horde. But it looks like it's more of a council rather than a straight up war chief that we know. But he is the leader of the Warsong clan and the father of Garrosh Hellscream. He is, like I said, responsible for uniting the Orcish clans. He's the first Orc in our timeline to taste the blood of Manaroth and become corrupted, binding the Orcs to the Burning Legion, an act his son Garrosh hated him for. However, Grom killed Manaroth, the demon whose blood he drank, and with the aid of Thrall, redeemed himself, freeing the Orcs from their demonic servitude. Thrall later informed Garrosh of his father's actions and would give him Gorhal, Grom Hellscream's axe. The story of his father's redemption would give Garrosh the strength to try and make something of himself, though we know how that kind of turned out, with recent events, and who knows where it will go from here. Grommash Hold was named after Grom Hellscream, and there are mixed opinions as to how good or bad Grom Hellscream was. He was a bit of a nutter, a bit of a barbarian at points, but he did ultimately liberate the Orcs from their servitude to the demons, so he's an odd character, but it's very interesting to see him in this expansion. We're going to find out a lot about him. Next up is Durotan, leader of the Frostwolf clan. At the time of the Warlords of Draenor, they've rejected joining the Iron Horde, but this could change. They could still be mulling it over. They might be forced to join them, or perhaps Thrall and the Horde can get them to join them. His people are struggling to survive in the Frostfire Ridge, so they're kind of on their own. They're just hunkered down, trying to make it through, while the Iron Horde are pushing on. And eventually, that's going to force them to make a choice. Durotan was the father of Thrall, and a good friend of Orgrim Doomhammer. Both of them had refused to drink the blood of Manaroth when the Orcs entered servitude to the demons, and this put them under suspicion by the rest of the Horde. When the Horde made their way into Azeroth, the Frostwolf clan were just kicked out and forced to make a home for themselves in Alterac Valley, which is why you fight the Frostwolf clan there for your alliance. There, Durotan and his mate had a son, who would later become known as Thrall. Durotan wanted to protect the future of his child, and knew that meant bringing Gul'dan to justice. Durotan aided Orgrim Doomhammer in taking over the Horde, where they aimed from that to find Gul'dan. Unfortunately, Durotan and his mate were assassinated by some of Doomhammer's guards, who'd been spies of Gul'dan. A baby Thrall was left to die in the wilderness, but luckily he was found and raised by a human called Aedelus Blackmore. Thrall would later name Durotar after his father. Though not one of these warlords, Orgrim Doomhammer will be in a new expansion and will play a significant part. He's one of those few Orcs who stood up against those who'd surrendered the Orcs to demonic slavery. He and Durotan tried to stop the Orcs from becoming barbaric, demon-corrupted warriors and take them back to their peaceful shamanistic roots. As war chief, Orgrim brought the trolls and the goblins into the Horde. Sometime later, he met Thrall and taught him about his father, Durotan. The two of them helped liberate Orcs from Alliance internment camps, but Orgrim was killed during one of these assaults. His influence on Thrall helped shape the Horde into what it is today, and what Garrosh and the Iron Horde threatened to undo. What will this mean? Will the Iron Horde also become demonic and bring about the return of the Burning Legion? Will they see the error of their ways and help stop these demons? That's ultimately the fight that's going to take place between Garrosh. Garrosh wants to stop the Iron Horde becoming demonic, but he does also want to invade Azeroth. The Horde and the Alliance are going to want to just basically possibly stop the Horde becoming demonic in this timeline. I mean, ultimately that's what makes the Horde of the current timeline what it is today. So perhaps it's an important event that has to happen. I'm assuming it does happen, because otherwise events would be significantly changed. and whether the Burning Legion start invading cross time and cross dimension, that's going to get kind of messy. What we do know is that Garrosh will not be redeemed. He's not getting a redemption story, so it will be interesting to see where his story goes. I mean, is he going to be another raid boss? Will we fight him twice? Will he just get killed off in a cutscene? Obviously something's going to happen to him. I don't know. I don't see him surviving. I was surprised that he survived this expansion. But now we know it's about Warlords of Draenor, it makes a whole lot more sense now. What with his father being involved and going back in time, it makes sense to keep Garrosh around, at least for this expansion. But we know this expansion, the events that happen, will spill over to the next expansion. So will Garrosh perhaps be around then as well? We don't know. It'll be interesting to see how he and Thrall deal with meeting their fathers, and how different they will be from their preconceptions, because Garrosh didn't really know his father. The last he heard of him in our timeline was that he drank the blood of the demons. After that, he had no idea what happened until Thrall came to him and told him he'd redeemed them. Thrall never met his father, obviously. Everything he knows about him is from Orgrim Doomhammer. So it'll be interesting to see, whether everything goes in line with the events that we know in our timeline, or whether perhaps people turn bad or people turn good. Will Durotan remain a good character? He might end up drinking the demonic blood and becoming a bad guy. It's just hard to say. It could go many different ways, and I'm not sure how much it's going to affect the current timeline. It's the thing with time travel is it's very, very messy, and Warcraft lore is already kind of messy as it is, so it'll be interesting to see just how much of an effect this has on the overall current timeline of things. It might make the Horde stronger, which it needs after the Siege of Orgrimmar, but we'll have to see. I mean, it's a great idea for an expansion. It is obviously a big lead up into returning the Burning Legion. Gul'dan in Warlords of Draenor is partnered up with demons, and he's demonic. He is a fell orc, so the Burning Legion have a more significant role in this expansion than they did in Mists of Pandaria, where it was just a case of there were just whispers. So it's definitely looking like it's going to lead up to something like the return of the Burning Legion. I'll be surprised if the next expansion after this next expansion isn't Return of the Burning Legion, but we'll have to see. I know that Blizzard have got several expansions planned in advance, so I'd be surprised. I don't know what else they could do. I'm kind of sad that it's not the Dark Below, because I loved that idea. It just made a lot of sense. It tied a lot of events up after Cataclysm. We'll find out what happens to Deepholm, find out what happens to the Maelstrom and stuff like that, and find out a bit more about the Old Gods and the Naga. The Old Gods have had such a big influence on this expansion, Mists of Pandaria, that it seemed to make sense that we'd find out more about them in the next expansion, but obviously that's been pushed aside. So maybe we get something like the Dark Below in the future, but I don't know, I kind of would have liked that, but I'm also really interested in this expansion as well. It looks like it's taking things back to old school World of Warcraft. Not that I've played it for that long, but I have immersed myself in the lore. I've read a lot of the books, and I know about events, obviously, doing this video, so I'm interested to find out. I'm interested to meet these characters in game and find out more about them and hear what they have to say, rather than just reading about them, which is also obviously awesome, but it's different to seeing them run about and kill things. I'm a big fan of Durotan and Orgrim Doomhammer, so I'm really excited to see what part they play. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. I'm going to do another video as soon as BlizzCon's over, summarising my favourite features that are going to be coming out in Warlords of Draenor. If any of the lore in this video is wrong, please let me know and I'll try and amend it in captions or whatever. I've I've read The Rise of the Horde, which is a book that you should read if you're interested in finding out about the Warlords of Draenor and the events around it, as this expansion, going back in time, is set around that period, just a little bit before the orcs drink the blood of Manoroth. So reading that book will set you up for the next expansion a lot, and it is a good book. You find out a lot about Durotan and Orgrim Doomhammer and Grom Hellscream, and it's just very good. So yeah, I recommend reading that. It should be interesting. I'm excited to see these characters in action. It's going to be a good expansion, I think. I'm kind of more excited for this than I was Mists of Pandaria, because Mists of Pandaria was Blizzard's sort of funny expansion, even though it ended up pretty dire with Old Gods and the collapse of the Horde, essentially. It started off pretty upbeat, to be honest, with, you know, bouncy pandas and getting drunk with brew and funny rabbits and all that business. It was a lot more upbeat than, say, Burning Crusade or Cataclysm, which was like end of the world sort of shit. So I think this expansion is going to be pretty gritty, pretty tough. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm excited to see what effects these events have on the timeline that we know. And most importantly, I'm excited to see what sort of War Chief Vol'jin's going to be. So yeah, I hope you like this video. If there's anything else you want to know, just say in the comments, and I'll try and reply with YouTube's new buggy comment system. So yeah, if you've got any requests for other videos, things you want me to cover and talk about, let me know. And I'll see you in my next video about the features of Warlords of Draenor that I'm excited for. So yeah, thanks for watching, and chat to you guys soon.